designed to keep the body flexible and the mind clear. Like so many of the daily activities, both in China and in Chinatowns around the globe, these ancient forms of exercise and movement are deeply embedded in Chinese society, not only for the purpose of self-improvement, but to strengthen the bonds of the wider community. Places like Columbus Park and the Senior Citizen Center not only highlight the continuing interest in Chinese culture and modern Chinatown, but the concept of family as well, which is still central to the life of Chinese Americans.
In the Chinese community, the extended family concept, it's very, very much alive and practiced to this day. As a matter of fact, it's not uncommon for 3 or 4 generations to share the same roof. Even the duty of relatives to help in support and providing for the new arrivals, it's very real.
Yet despite the amazing endurance of Chinese culture, life is changing in modern Chinatown. The same new arrivals who sustain the extended families that lie at the heart of the Chinese-American experience have also caused immense growing pains for the community. The results are new pressure, new strife, and more challenges for the people of Chinatown. Today's Chinatown is a unique mixture of old and new, of East and West, all meeting to create a way of life that is both singular and surprising. And there are few places where this blending is more evident than in the field of religion. The original Chinese immigrants practiced a number of faiths, depending on their region of origin. From Buddhism, with its emphasis on selflessness and spirituality, to Taoism and Confucianism, with their strong element of ancestor worship. Echoes of these beliefs can still be seen today in the form of temples and shrines throughout Chinatown. Chinese immigrants who had been exposed to Christianity by missionaries in their homeland brought their religion with them as well. The oldest Christian house of worship in New York City's Chinatown is the Transfiguration Church. But to the people who live here, this venerable institution represents much more than religion.
It is a terrific symbol of Chinatown itself. It started in 1801 and was an Irish church. And then the Italians began to move in. Whoever the new group is, their mass was held in the basement. And then the reigning group is up in the regular chapel. Now the new wave of immigration into New York Chinatown is the Fukienese people from Fujian province. Their service is held in the basement. The Cantonese and Mandarin service is in the main chapel. One day they'll be in the main chapel and there'll be a new group of people coming from somewhere who will be in the basement. It's a great progression of things, and it's a symbol of how the community's evolved. The pastor who really operates the place today is Father Nobiletti, who is an Italian-American from Bensonhurst. He speaks Cantonese, does his sermons in Cantonese, and often tries to explain things to me in Cantonese, and after 10 minutes I have to say, I didn't get the last 5 minutes of what you're saying there, Father, so you gotta tell me in English now so I can figure this out.
The Fukienese who attend the Transfiguration Church aren't the only new arrivals in Chinatown over the last few decades. One of the largest and most visible of the new groups in Chinatown is from Hong Kong. They made a particular impression on the city of Vancouver.
It's led some critics to call us Hongcouver, but I think it's actually underscored one of the wonderful things about Vancouver, which is its diversity, its multiculturalism, the strength of all the people coming in, and the important contributions that the Chinese in particular have made to this community.
However, these new waves of immigration have also brought problems. One of the most serious was the rise of a vicious new generation of gangs in the larger Chinatowns across America.
During the 70s and 80s, Chinatown had a reputation of being a free-for-all, an area where quite often gunfire between gang members would erupt. So it had a very poor image in the media and also in the general public.
Eventually, state and federal law enforcement agencies joined with local community leaders to overcome the problem.
Since 1993, we've seen a decline of 50% in felony crime in the 5th Precinct area itself.
But not all of Chinatown's crime problems have been solved. The Fukienese represent the latest wave of immigration from mainland China. This has created a whole new underclass in Chinatown, one that is often targeted by criminals.
New immigrants do not have a Social Security number, cannot have a bank account, so they carry all their monies on the person. And if they become a victim of a crime, they lose their life savings at one time.
Yet in spite of the difficult conditions that await them, the Chinese continue to come to America, just as their forefathers did during the gold rush.
This is the golden country. This is the place to come to be free, to make money, take it home, enjoy it with your family, have some stability, have the right to vote. You get the new people that come in, they don't have it. They want to get it. That's the wonderful entrepreneurial spirit. They never give up.
The wide diversity of groups in today's Chinatown has forced the community to evolve with the changing circumstances, which hasn't always been easy. But as Chinese Americans have shown throughout their history, adaptability is one of their most notable qualities.
You know, the funny thing to me is that this great onslaught of the Fukienese is not new, and it's not that scary to me personally, because having grown up in Chinatown, we've gone through all these, quote, onslaughts or invasions previously. In 5 or 10 years, sometime in the future, it's going to be another wave of people, and the Fukienese are going to be the entrenched.
Just as the recent influx of immigrants has strained the bonds that hold Chinatown together, so have the advances made by the younger generation of Chinese Americans.
As the second generation starts to grow up and they get educated in the Western traditions, I find Chinatown to be graduating further and further away. As a matter of fact, people are no longer bounded by the traditional streets of Chinatown.
This trend has been repeated in the San Gabriel Valley in Southern California, in places like Monterey Park, which has the largest Chinese population in the U.S. Yet fueled by new waves of immigration, Chinatown has survived. And even though most Chinese Americans today were not actually born in China, their connection with and commitment to their ancestral homeland remains strong. For Ping Li, that commitment grew out of his father's deep traditional values.
He says that, your most important thing is take care of your family. After your family is your village, which is all cans. He says, I hope one day maybe you can fulfill my dreams, go back, help the village, make their life a little better. I went back there and refurbished the school. It took about a year and a half. And finally they sent for me to come back, cut the ribbon, and dedicate the school and all that.
Partly because of the example set by their parents, this sense of commitment and connection is powerful, even among the younger generations of Chinese Americans.
The interesting part, going back to my village with my mom back in '86, met my aunt that I've never met before, that lives in my grandfather's house that he built with money that he made in America. She greeted me, and the funny thing, she greeted me, she lit the incense. She put her roast pork as an offering to the deity. Then she bowed to the deity and said, "You're home."
No matter where they were born, Chinese Americans have two homelands. Like Chinatown itself, they are a unique mixture of influences, East and West, old and new. It is a blend that has immeasurably enriched their lives.
From the United States, take the good stuff, leave the bad stuff. From the Chinese culture, take the good stuff, and we have to accept it. We got a lot of bad stuff, and leave that behind. We're in the Gold Mountain, you know, let's go with it.
You always talk about the melting pot of America. It is not a melting pot. It's a tossed green salad bowl with everything thrown in there, but it hasn't melted. It's there. I can't change who I am. I'm an American, but they know I'm Asian descent. I am, but I'm proud I'm Chinese. I don't want to ever change that.
The Chinese have been called America's model minority. Roughly 1 in 100 now holds a PhD. A remarkably high percentage filled the professional and managerial ranks and attend North America's elite universities. In California, where poor young Chinese men once panned for gold, laid track, drained swamps, planted vines, and washed shirts for others, there are now 30 Chinese-owned banks.
Our forefathers came here with nothing, stole their way on boats to get here. They had nothing. Now you look back and you're going into the 4th generation, probably in some cases the 5th, but generally about the 4th. And there's legislators, dentists, a ton of doctors.
Okay, why don't you talk to us? It was a very, very big family moment because I passed the bar. And I told him I passed the bar, and he started crying. And I said, Dad, what do you want when you go home? He says, you know what I want? I'd like a Budweiser and turn the air conditioning on.
I still don't have my NBA and NFL players yet, but there's certainly Michael Chang out there. There's certainly Michelle Kwan, our version of Bill Gates, Charles Wang from Computer Associates. It just goes on and on. The list is deep and long.
America has always been a land of opportunity, a magnet for the ambitious and daring, a place to get rich, breathe free, or just start over. Its growth as a nation is the epic tale of its immigrants, newcomers who risked everything for the chance at a new life. Yet despite all the obstacles that confronted them, the Chinese have been remarkably successful. The reason for their success is embedded in the fabric of Chinatown, in its culture of hard work, dedication, and perseverance, its values of family and education, its adherence to ancient institutions and traditions, and its ability to adapt to changing times. This is the true wealth of Chinatown, and why it remains the heart of the place the Chinese still call Gold Mountain. After a long and successful life in his adopted land, Yi Ah-tai died in California in 1896. His membership in his district association ensured that, like thousands of other sojourners, his bones would be returned to China to be buried in his native village. But Yi Ah-tai's roots in America were deeper than anyone knew.
My great-grandfather Yi Ah-tai astonished his family and friends with his last request. Just before passing away, he spoke to those around him. I am old. Nearly 73 years have passed over my head. I have lived in this land since I was a young man. My wife lives here, and this land is the home of my sons. Now let my body be buried here, and my bones lie undisturbed for all times in the land where I have lived.
For decades, many Chinese Americans were hostile to China's communist government. But by May of 2000, when the U.S. normalized trade with China, their tone had softened. The traditional voice of San Francisco's Chinatown now strongly supports trade with mainland China, saying it is now more democratic and more capitalistic.